This was an absolute pain to get off. All of that just because it split there. Oh, how I love Fords. So you're probably thinking, Will, what on earth are you doing building another project car? And it's not that, it's that one. It is the Mark 1 Focus. For the past 10 years, it's been sat there doing nothing, just taking up room. 2 years ago, I made a start on it, got to a certain point, and then lost all hope. When I realised that the wiring loom didn't fit, I was gutted. But now, after a lot of work and a lot of research, I found it, and here it is. So it's been sat here in the clean pile for ages, waiting to go back in. Parts for these cars are so hard to find now. So the question is, can I actually get it finished? Or is it going to sit there for another 10 years? Let's hope. Get it back in there be a bit of a challenge. There's still a couple things that need to go back onto it. So we've still got to get the sump back on the bottom of the engine. So I started by taking the sump out, gave it a full sandblast. Now, it came up quite nicely. There are 2-part sump. So you have this one as well, which goes onto the bottom of it. So all the nuts for the sump, I've left soaking a couple of nights in this degreaser. They are still a little bit dirty, but I'm just going to give them a wipe over, is the plan. You can see with that one, it's still a little bit crusty through each nut and just drying them off with degreaser. It's going to take a bit of time, so if you could follow me whilst I do it, that would be amazing. So when the engine originally came out, I stripped it down, rebuilt it, and this is where it is at the moment. We also have a blanking plate here that we need to make up and put on, but for now I might just put the original breather back on there and the gearbox. So one of the final steps to get this engine back together and in the car, we have to get the sump on. More bolts, more problems. So we've run into a bit of a problem. 1, 2, nothing, 3. Great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it turns out I was just being stupid. I'd left 2 bolts in the parts washer and I was looking for them for about half an hour, pulling my hair out. 5. Tightening them to the torque specs, working in a crisscross pattern. So essentially the sump doesn't end up going on wonky. So as you can see there, there's a slight gap. That's because I've not fully tightened it. If you look on the other side, a gap here from where it hasn't been fully tightened. Right, so now that's the first half of the sump, lower side on. I think it's going to need a bit of a clean. The thing with this lower sump is you can't actually buy a seal that goes around it. You have to put gasket sealant, and it's got 101 bolts that need to go in as well. Oh, this is going to be a long process. Don't want any bits of sand in there. If you can see at the moment, it is grimy. Right, so if you have a look at that now, that is so much cleaner. So I'm now going to pop some instant gasket on here. As I said earlier, these don't come with a gasket. You have to put your own sealant on. It'll work. But it's still squishy, so let's just hope. You kind of need to have a small cut there so it evenly comes out. Otherwise it would just end up in a big old mess. Another thing is, don't rush it. Take your time with it. So after you've gone round the whole thing, don't worry if there's a little bit more in certain places, that's not an issue. Once you put the sump onto the engine, it's going to even itself out. What I would do is I would just go round the nut holes just for extra protection. So I've just forgot a crucial part. I've put the gasket on, but on the engine I haven't joined the oil pickup to the oil pump, so I just need to do that quickly. Right, so I've just got that on. As you can see under there, that was a very crucial thing, and I'm glad I remembered it. Otherwise, engine kaput. Right, so ideally you can't leave the gasket on here for too long, otherwise it will just go off. Gasket, it goes everywhere. Right, so now I've got the lower part of the sump on. There is a bit of overspill on the gasket. What you can do is you can leave that to dry and then just go along it with a Stanley blade. So at this point in the video, you're probably wondering what I'm actually building. Well, Colin McRae unfortunately passed away in 2007. One of his most iconic cars was the Mark I Ford Focus. I'm trying to replicate his car to the best standard it can be. Some of these parts you just cannot find. They were built by M Sport, which obviously makes it so much harder because I have to make everything by hand. But I do hope you can join me on this journey so I can finally finish the car. Although I do not intend to actually race this car, I would love to take it to shows just so everyone can appreciate it. Right, so that is everything I'm going to be doing today, guys. In the next episode, we're going to get the gearbox on and hopefully we'll get it back in the car.